All right, I am pleased to introduce Matt Kaseeska. He is a cybersecurity expert and he works for Networks Consulting Resources, and he has generously given us his time today to talk to us about a very important security topic, which is cybersecurity insurance and compliance. And I think particularly for some of the audience members in this room, this is an even more important topic for your demographic of customers. So I'll turn the floor over to Matt to take us through his presentation.
Everybody, how are you? Nice to meet you. Thanks, Sam, for inviting me. So I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things I want to talk about is you guys all have cybersecurity insurance, I would imagine, at the credit unions and all that, right? What you may not know, what I see all the time is when you fill out those forms, right? You're like, I don't know what this is. Yes, I do that, right? Or I think we're going to do that in 6 months. Yes, yeah, you're laughing. I know this guy over here. And when SOC 2 compliance gets a hold of you, there's no hiding. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share some like things that I've seen that people do that you shouldn't do. And if you're doing them, you should stop doing them. And just, you know, some tips and tricks and things to look out for. And then I go by the CIS controls, okay, CIS 8, and that's kind of the North Star of everything SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliance, you name it, PCI, right? It all revolves around the CIS 8 controls. It's super boring. And I'm going to go through like the titles of each one, but that's to give you an idea of some of the areas that you should be mindful of. If you're SOC 2 compliant, you have to have all these areas taken care of. I do SOC 2 compliance and consulting work for companies that are struggling with that. I was, when I had hair and slightly skinnier, I was the technician that was trying to make sense of all this crap while I was trying to do all the technical stuff that everyone needed me to do. And it was really hard to do that because I didn't have the time to really focus on it. I wasn't an expert, so then I had to learn everything. So what we do is we come in and we assist, you know, IT departments and companies to get their cybersecurity stuff in line. So we'll do audits and things like that. So this is where a lot of this stuff's coming from. So go ahead. A little bit about me. Been doing this for a long time. I do VCIO and CISO services for companies, virtual CIO and CISO. I don't know if you guys know what that is, security officer, information officer. I got my MBA from MIT in 2011, and my focus was on systems and processes. So they basically broke my brain, and I'll never be the same because I can't think of anything the same way I used to. So go ahead. So what we should focus on is using, so when we're talking about compliance, right? Let's say something simple like patching for your computers, right? That's part of compliance. If you're doing it manually or you think the Windows version of it's doing it, wrong. Use system to measure your existing infrastructure. So we'll use patching, for instance. If you use Microsoft, you don't know where you're at in the patching mode. You don't know if you're 50%, 70%, you don't know if Sally's rebooting your computer or not. So you need systems in place to check that, right? And that goes for your routers, your servers, your firewalls, everything, whether it's in the cloud or local. Most of it's in the cloud. Know what your ultimate goal you want to accomplish, right? So if it's like, hey, I want to be SOC 2 compliant, or I want to feel more secure with my cybersecurity stance. Maybe I need an audit just to see where the holes might be, or maybe I'm great. You know, it's rare that happens, but it does happen. Set time frame, dates, and milestones to get it done. And with that, and when I was talking about like the IT departments and things like that, right? You guys are busy. We're all busy. Make it realistic, but you have to carve out that time out of your schedule and fiercely protect it. If you can't do that, most likely you're not going to get it done. You might want to bring somebody in to help you. Good. Top reasons companies go through compliance. And Sam and I are going through this now, right? Industry, firm, or vendors require you to become compliant to their cybersecurity efforts, right? Insurance companies require your company to go through this process in order to go to cybersecurity insurance. So this is what I'm talking about when you're answering questions on that ridiculously long sheet. If that's not correct, they can deny you your cybersecurity insurance. So you're thinking you're getting $1 million, $2 million check to help you get out of ransomware jail. It's not going to happen. Your company has had an incident and needs to increase your cybersecurity stance. So let's say you didn't listen or you didn't know, which is most of the time, and they just don't know, and you got ransomware. Okay, now, hopefully you had some insurance, but now you have to change your stance so you don't get hit again, because now you're on the black web, dark web, and they're coming for you over and over again. Go ahead. Every evolving landscape, everyone knows about that. Phishing is like, flavor of the day now. And they're really trying to get you to like transfer money and things like that. But they can do identity theft. They can, I had one guy, he's like, oh, I'm talking to Microsoft right now. Like, no, you're not. He's like, no, they're on my computer. I'm like, ah! Like remotely, I'm like, shut them off. And so we, lock down his access to the network. But he thought he had a problem. It popped up. Hey, this is an issue. Call Microsoft. A lot of people do it. There's no cybersecurity position that's going to save you from that person. Okay. All the bells and whistles started going off for us, so we knew that this was a problem. If you don't have your bells and whistles, your automated systems, that will happen. You will not know what happened. You'll get keyloggers everywhere. They'll take everyone's passwords, and then they'll own you in like 6 months because they'll wait to get all the data. And then they'll take you down. This is the human element. I thought this was funny. $700,000. Actually given a Nigerian princess, even though it was like a topic on Saturday Night Live at least 3 times. Multi-factor authentication, it's a good step, but it's also a bit vulnerable to an attacker in the middle threats. Okay. And there are some things in there that you can put that will stop that depending. Most business operating multi-cloud identities, all right, to access your cloud apps. Cloud-based applications today are accessible for anywhere in the world, which, your perimeter now is like everywhere, which changed everything for us, especially during this pandemic, right? And then the ransomware economy. I don't know if you guys know this, some of you probably do, but it's almost like a bunch of entrepreneurs got together and like, hey, you try to get the password, and then when you do, I'll pay you some money, and then I'm going to try and do this, and then when I get this, I'm going to sell it to this guy. It's like a whole thing. It's like a assembly line of bad guys. So once you get attacked, your stuff's still up there. They're still going to be trying to get you. Go ahead. They're increasing in number. We all know this. 2,000 ransomware attacks reported up to July. So from January, 2,000 people got hit. We actually saved 2 clients. 50-user manufacturing company, cost them $500,000. And this is a guy who didn't listen to us. Right? He was like a time and material guy. And so we said, hey, make sure if you're going to be like that, make sure you get cybersecurity insurance. You know how much you got? $100,000. We blew through that the first 2 weeks. Yeah. So average cost of breach, $2.4 million. I think that's high. I think for like small business and stuff, but if you have 50 locations, multiple states and stuff like that's a real number, because it'll, you guys have stuff in place, but if it's gone undetected, they'll creep through your network and you won't do it. I've got guys that can do it. State sponsors are creating attacks against 0 day. There was a 0-day attack. None of this stuff will find that as far as like antivirus, anti-ransomware and stuff like that, but there are also pieces of software that they profile it differently, so you can stop that, but you have to have those tools in place. AI is now being integrated with these attacks, so they're very intelligent. They're using social media, they're using all this other stuff. I've been attacked before, and I'm a little bit of a joker, so guys send me an email. I'm like, I don't know, ask your mother. And just joking around. And I think that made him mad because after that, it was like, my guys are like, what happened? What'd you do? I said, I don't know why. It's like, someone tried to get in your account 1,200 times in the last hour. He must really love his mother. So, if I could create a software that was like a digital bullet that would fly through the screen and get his guy to do it. Go ahead, next one. Insurance policies are now written to allow the insurer to investigate and deny claims. So this is all state and government sponsored changes. It's not going away. You have to have a reasonable level of security, and it has to be defensible, right? So you have to say, well, we're in the process of getting our SOC 2. We are in the process of doing this, or, we have these things in place. We know that we need these things. But the big thing for me is, like, we all buy insurance in our cars or houses in case an emergency happens. The worst thing would be like, oh, I'm sorry, insurance doesn't cover that, right? So that's something you really have to be careful of. Court cases, the Financial Conduct Authority, I don't know who those guys are, to be honest. But customer contracts have been breached, data has been exposed, insider tips off when a reasonable level of cybersecurity hasn't been implemented, and then they deny your claim, right? And if executives know, right, like the guy who owned the manufacturing company, it was a bigger company and they had more ripple effect, like with secure data, like HIPAA data and stuff like that. It was more of a high level case. The executives are going to jail, right? They're going to, like, super nice jail, but it's still, they're going to jail for months, 3 months, 6 months. I personally would not want to go to club jail. Go ahead. So it's getting serious. It's getting more serious because people are losing millions and millions of dollars, and it's an insurance company and they have all the liabilities. How do we ensure a robust level of security and ensure defensibility? Ensure annual alignment with the most current CIS control standard and adopt a security policy of continuous improvement, right? So it's little baby steps. Okay, this quarter I want to do this. This quarter I want to do this, and then set time, set schedule, have meetings, have action items, and do them. If you can't do them, maybe you can hire someone temporarily to help you move that forward, whether internally or externally. CIS has 18 controls with the best practice prescriptions of various degrees to mitigate cybersecurity risk by over 90%. There's nothing that's 100%, right? Because you got that guy that's like, I'm on the phone with 90%. It's recognized as an industry standard for security. Everybody recognizes it. HIPAA, PCI, everybody. Defensibility is proven through implementation of an easily referenceable value set of best practices and documentation, implemented solutions and policy. That's a long way of saying, I've got stuff installed, I documented, I know what I have, and we are continuing to monitor it and improve it. If you don't, you really have to, really do. How do you ensure a robust level of security, ensure defensibility? A lot of people are adopting security policy ensures internal and external clients are well defended. So we have a company called MedHQ, and they do for surgery centers and medical, they do like the HR and the payroll and stuff. They didn't get hacked, that's us, but their customer got hacked and they lost an entire payroll because of it. And it was their fault. But they blamed MedHQ, so MedHQ's insurance had to pay that. But they were fine because they had defensibility and they knew everything else. And they didn't have an entire site. Like, we're in the process of finishing the SOC 2, right? So even though we had all kinds of tools to protect them, we still are not at SOC 2 with them. But when you're doing business with other clients, what you're going to find coming up, and I'd say probably within the next 24 months, I don't know if it'll be mandatory. Remember, like HIPAA when it first started, like, whatever, no one cares. Now it's a big thing, right? 10 years later, they're going to do the same thing with SOC 2 compliance because insurance companies are losing so much money. They want the laws to change, and they make the laws change. So that's something that I would say that if you are dealing with other entities outside of yours, I don't care if it's your consulting company, so managed service company or internal IT department, MSPs are the biggest target, right? Because they're one in many. So if they got into our stuff, they'd have hundreds of clients that they could terrorize, right? And then we're in big, deep trouble. So you want to make sure that your support company is solid, that your vendors are solid. If you give access to your systems at all or share data, you need to make sure that they have an audit and that you see what the audit says. Otherwise, you're just like, hey, everything's fine until it's not. Ensure responsibility, cybersecurity, ensure alignment, best practices, right? Ensure customer alignment, security posture that best fits their risk. And there's no, no really acceptable level of risk. It's just what you can afford to, procure to, keep you as safe as possible. Ensure alignment to cybersecurity insurance expectations. That's a big thing. And the reason I talk about this a lot, I've probably given this talk probably 25 times because there's so many people that get zapped now by the insurance companies. Ensure legal alignment and applicable state and federal legislation on security and privacy. That's not me being almost done, is it?
I don't think
I
so.
was like, shit, that's super fast, everybody. So isn't this sexy and fun? So when I can't sleep, I just read this. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so this is, you would need to go through all of these for SOC 2 compliance. Okay. And then there's IG1, IG2, and IG3, right? There's step 1, step 2, and step 3. I'm just going to go through like the top level stuff so you kind of have an idea what this is all about. Because if I went into detail, you would all know even obviously. So go to the next one. So inventory control of enterprise assets, right? So does everybody have an up to date, by the minute, by the second inventory of everything that you have? Sam does, because we do his. And on these assets, do you know, are they healthy automatically? Are they being patched automatically? If the answer is, I'm not sure, I don't think so, you should look into it. Go ahead. Software assets, just track what you have, know your licenses, know all that stuff. And the software that we have does hardware and software. So Sam has that too. Go ahead. Data protection, develop process technical controls to identify, classify, and that's more like personal information, sensitive stuff. So we have other like financial institutions, like financial planners and credit unions probably have this too, where you have sensitive data that you go back and forth with the client. There's a software called Callbox that, some of them are like, oh, I had to send you a token. It's very like dig a ditch. Callbox, it's PAUBOX. It encapsulates it, it reads it through, a form of AI and sees there's sensitive information in there. It encapsulates it and sends it to the customer. And then it makes sure that's the right person it's going to. It's not intercepted, and then it takes it off. And so it's all automatic. So that's what I'm talking about when I say data protection. There's automated, and when I dig the ditch, that they call that automated, not in my book. Because if you send something to me and I have to jump through 3 hoops and I'm a customer, I have an accountant that I want to hit him in the head with a fish because he sends me this stuff and I have to click on it. I have to log in and all this stuff, and it's so janky. And as a customer, right? Because I'm all about like, what's the customer experience, right? Technology is great, but if it pisses me off as a customer, I don't want it, right? As a vendor. So I tried to get them to use Callbox, but they're not listening. Go ahead. Secure configurations of enterprise assets and software. Okay. So establish and maintain a secure configuration of all your assets. It's basically documentation, right? So a lot of stuff boils down to, here's another tip. Documentation, IT glue, right? Have you guys heard of it? IT glue is great. And then LionGuard is another software that will spider your network and actually create the documentation for you and put it in IT glue, okay? What happens a lot of times is John's a super smart guy and he knows everything about everything, but he's really bad at documentation. Then John gets hit by a bus, or John quits, John gets mad, or John needs a move, or whatever. And then you lose all that stuff. So that's another big security issue. Go ahead. Assign and manage authorization, credentials, user accounts. So the couple things that I see a lot out there is you have no onboarding and offboarding process for your employees, right? I've seen people get fired and walk out with their security badge. And this is a big company. Okay, this is a global manufacturer of every pizza oven you've ever seen in your life. He walked out with his laptop, his card, Wi-Fi access, and he hacked them from the parking lot. Yeah, that was fun. So have an onboarding and offboarding schedule. Also, when you onboard your new employee, they shouldn't wait 2-3 days for a laptop and security, because that's when mistakes happen. And we like to work with the HR department to make it super easy. So all they do is send an email to help desk and it automatically creates multiple tickets for a new employee. And that's what I'm talking about, automate your stuff, right? And so everybody gets a ticket, including HR. And then when that person shows up, they got their badge, they got their laptop, they got their login, they got their apps, because that's a reflection on your company as well. Okay, go ahead. Access control, how are they getting to your data, right? If you're using terminal services to get into a server or to access something, or you're getting into your local desktop in your office, odds are you got holes in your security, okay? And a lot of that happened during COVID because everyone was just trying to figure everything out as fast as they possibly can. So take another look at how people are accessing your data. Like us, like we only come in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays. Everybody accesses everything remotely, but it's all locked down and we know what they're doing. So go ahead. Continuous vulnerability management. So there are outside companies that you can do your pen testing and all that stuff. It's not crazy expensive. Have them do it, or have an audit once a year, once a quarter. And once you do the initial one, the first one is going to be like pulling teeth, right? It's going to be like running uphill with a 50-pound backpack. After that, it's easy, right? After the first audit, it's easy. So get through the first one, work through your stuff, and then next year it'll be easier. But you really need to do that, because just not knowing and thinking everything's okay is it's not going to serve you. Go ahead. Audit log management. So guys like us, super nerdy. This is where we find all the footprints, like when the bad guys come in, right? You got to make sure the audit log's on. You got to make sure that it's monitored. So we have software that monitors the audit log. So remember when I said the zero threat, it's really hard to find. We have software that checks these audit logs, and that's the footprint we're looking for before they get in. So go ahead. Email web browser protection. That's most people have spam, phishing, web block, all that stuff. You'd be surprised at the sites that people try to go to in the middle of the day. And you know, even gaming sites and stuff. Like the worst thing that ever happened in our household was my son went to some gaming site. His son or his buddy told him to go, and it was just all malware. It just destroyed the computer in like a hot second. And so it's obviously gotten a lot smarter and faster and more deadly nowadays. But you should have this. This should be pretty much easy peasy. Everybody should have that. Go ahead. Malware. Everyone knows about that. Go ahead. Data recovery. Establish, maintain data recovery practices. So give you a little story, like talk to someone, some of the bigger companies, you guys probably are, streaming to the cloud and backups and all that stuff. Make sure you isolate your data. So if you do get ransomware, they can't get to it. Do some research, figure out how you're backing up, and say, and you can call your vendor, right? Whoever it's Barracuda, whoever. And say, hey, if we got ransomware, can they get to that data? And if they can, how can they get to it? And then block that. It's possible. You just have to know about it and stuff it. If you're backing up, if you have friends, clients, anyone that are backing up to a hard drive, that's got to stop. Because it won't matter. I've had multiple clients get hit by a tornado. I've had to pull a server out of a bunch of cinder blocks and rebuild it. One guy, beautiful mortgage company, went out of business at Oak Brook. Go ahead. Network infrastructure management. So this is more, track, report, correct network devices in order to prevent attackers from exploiting vulnerable. So this is, again, like our software that we have, or, you look at firmware, right? Firmware is a big one on your routers, your switches, all that stuff. If I'm going to hack you and I know what router you have, and I know that you have a 2-year-old software, 100% I can get in there. I'll own that router. I will scan every packet going in and out of there, and I will know everything about everything. So it's a small little thing like you're patching, but you got to do it. Go ahead. Network monitoring. Yeah. Our operate processes and tooling, establish and maintain comprehensive network monitoring. So this is like the umbrella effect of all the tools that you use, right? So you're monitoring the 0-day threats, you're monitoring someone clicking on something, you're monitoring someone going to a website, you're blocking that, you're monitoring anything attached to the email and going in the sandbox, and it gets taken out before they even see it, or they don't get it at all. So it can't be manual. It has to be automatic because the IT department does not have the bandwidth to manage this stuff. Go ahead. Security awareness and skills training. This is really key. So I would say this is the most missed thing that I see. I just talked to a guy yesterday. He's like, "Oh yeah, everybody knows about phishing." And I looked at his like click rates. Everybody was clicking on these things. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, they don't know. You know, they go through the training and they don't learn and they keep doing it." So if you have like, if you have a phishing, anti-phishing software, they have, I think it's a plugin, but or sometimes it comes with, depending who, but they'll send out phishing emails to your employees, right? And then if they click on it, you know about it, and they have to go through the training stuff. You'd be surprised what a big deal that makes. There is a direct correlation to how many people get hacked and how many people don't do the training or fail the training. Directly correlated. Good. Service provider management. This is what I was telling you, like us, you have to hold us accountable, right? Because we come in and, hey, we're your authority, we're your trusted advisor. But you have to ask them hard questions and make sure it's not two guys, in the garage, not paying attention to what they're telling you that you should do. Good. Application software security, same thing. Make sure people that need access have access, and people that don't should not have access. And then go ahead, next one. Incident response management. Okay, this is a big one. So you should have it's almost like a fire escape plan, right? So who's doing what? Who's in charge? If we get hit with ransomware, you need their personal emails. Why? Because you need their cell phones. Why? Because your phone system's going to be down, And so you want to plan all that stuff out. Otherwise, it's you're pinging everybody, trying to find everybody's stuff, and that takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Go ahead. Penetration testing. That's what I was telling you. You should do at least yearly. Larger companies, I'd say 500 employees or more. I would actually do it bi-yearly. If you're fanatical, I would do it quarterly. If you have a lot of moving, changing parts and stuff like that, go ahead. And then it's a lot of stuff, right? I try to be as fast as I could for you. I apologize. It's a lot of info. And I love it. Someone, I forgot one business blog, he said, "How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time." Because it's an elephant. And when I go through this SOC 2 compliance, I feel like I'm walking in like quagmire at first. It's a lot of data. There are 3 implementation groups. What I told you, IG1, 2, and 3. IG1, you guys are probably already doing. IG2 is a little more complex. IG3 is kind of what Sam's going through now. And so it's not just the technical stuff, it's your policies. The policies have to be written. You have to understand them. People have to sign off on them. You have to do your inventory, control of your assets, software assets, data protection. And it's a journey, so it'll probably take you 12 to 24 months to get it done. Go ahead. I think that's enough. Oh, so I can send, I'll put some cards up, but this is the site you want to go to, CISsecurity.org, controls. And so what you can do, it's really cool. You can't see it here, but you have like this graph here, IG 1, 2, and 3. They also have like HIPAA, PCI, and you click on it, and it'll show all the items that you need to be compliant. We also work with a cool company that has like a HIPAA stamp of approval, and they've never had a client that didn't pass their HIPAA approval, but they do the policies, and then we work with them for the technical side. It's so, and they train your people. So I'm like, wow, that's great, man. I train people, everyone knows what's going on. But if you wanted to check it out, see where you're at, this is a good site for you. And just reach out to me. I'm share whatever I can with you if you need to. Good. I think that's, yeah, there's my email. I gave you the short version, not Matt Kaseeska, because it's a nightmare last name. So there's a story behind it. But yeah, happy to help you guys out. Stay safe. Just, yeah, there's just some good tips that you guys can bring back to the office and say, hey, are we doing this stuff? Are we as safe as we think? And a lot, so I deal a lot with the C-level people. And what I've seen before is the director thinks everything's fine. His employees, his tech guys say, yeah, everything's great. We got this under control. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it. Shit goes down and they're not doing it. So my advice and share with you is show me the money. Show me that we're doing, or bring somebody in that can do an audit 20, 40 hours or something, like that, just a high level, and say, yeah, this is all good here. And this is green, this is yellow, this is red. Have at it, So, but don't think everything's fine, especially with cyber hackers out there and AI is getting in there. So, but yeah, I hope this was helpful for you guys. So that's it. That's all I got.